Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm going to be essentially explaining my point of view as to why I believe hardcore MMA fans are getting incorrect about the Sean Strickland situation. While I like the idea of Sean Strickland being able to speak his mind, one of the few things that you guys seem to really ignore are the comments that he's made in the past that are actually harmful. So because of this, hardcore fans are essentially hypocritical because they let go of the genuinely bad slurs Sean says while being offended when certain communities take offense to it, which doesn't really make sense in my opinion. Hardcore MMA fans are essentially in a weird place in time right now because the sport of UFC needs to grow. It needs to bring in people like myself and my friends and other people like that. But the only way it can do that is to really reduce some of the things that some of these people have to say. But at the same time, hardcore MMA fans don't want that. They want the sport to grow, but at the same time, they want to keep that freedom of speech. But it does feel like it's at a crossroads where essentially that might not happen. But just to add on, this isn't the only community. UFC isn't the only sport or the only company that has challenges with this. We know certain communities like the Call of Duty community back in the day was very vocal and very toxic. But as it grew, we knew the hardcore COD players hate the game right now, but it's still doing better than ever in terms of sales. And I believe the UFC has to go in that direction to make the company grow, to have more pay-per-view points, to have these fighters strengthen in their pay numbers. There comes a point at time where the UFC knows that the hardcore MMA fan will watch and they need to keep on growing the sport. And the only way to do that is to decrease the amount of words that people like Sean Strickland have to say. While I do enjoy what Sean Strickland has to say in terms of freedom of speech, you cannot ignore what he said in that Dricus Duplessis conference, yelling out the F slur multiple times. And then at the same time, again, just repeating myself, that when someone wants to challenge him on it, you can't call him an infection, a swamp. That really brings in bad things into the sport of UFC and MMA in general, and that decreases the pay of the fighters in the long run. Do I believe Sean Strickland is good for the sport? Of course I believe he's good for the sport, man. He's bringing in a new perspective that we haven't seen in a while. One of the issues that we had for the past couple of years is how liberal it got. So hearing these type of voices is really helpful in bringing a stable balance of freedom of speech. But at times, it feels like the hardcore MMA community, we all know the hardcore MMA community is very right, Republican oriented, but being on that far right by yelling out these slurs, having someone who called himself a past neo-Nazi isn't really the best representation of the sport. And we need people like Israel Adesanya, like maybe Kamaru Usman, hopefully someone like Sugar Sean O'Malley, who cannot speak at all, who cannot do anything whatsoever on the mic, but he has a good fight style. So we need people like this to become the top of the sport, so more investors could come into it. People cannot enjoy the sport with people like Sean Strickland, man. So what I'm essentially saying is that we all want the sport to grow, but I believe, and many other people will agree with me, that Sean Strickland is not the best ambassador to help that grow. One of the great things about Conor McGregor is that everyone, the hardcore MMA fans, the casual MMA fans, just the outside general public, really enjoyed the sport of UFC, and it grew like crazy. And not because of the bad things Conor had to say, not because of the political things that he had to say, but because of his fight style, because of the passion for the sport and the way he spoke. And the way he spoke did not involve things that Sean Strickland has mentioned ever before. The UFC needs fighters that could fight the fight, walk the walk, but also talk that talk, man. But not the talk that Sean Strickland's talking about, but the way that Conor McGregor spoke. So that's why one of the great things is people like perhaps Ian Gary, even people like, I know he's very old so it doesn't really count, but like Michael Chandler, man, that dude can talk and fight, but he keeps on losing. So it's not really the best example, as I said. Just imagine superstars like Charles Oliveira talking English, man. He would have been a demon, a biggest ambassador for the sport. But now we have people like Sean Strickland who do walk the walk, but their talk is not really the best talk that we need for the sport to grow. So again, these hardcore MMA fans, they love the sport, but let's be honest, how much of these hardcore MMA fans are even paying the pay-per-view? It's probably more of the casuals that might be paying it. So essentially, we need these people to come in, and the best way for them to come in is to kind of, in essence, ignore what the hardcore fans are saying about freedom of speech, but also allowing these superstars to grow. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, man. The UFC is in a crossroads where there's not any superstars that can help grow the sport. So we have people like Sean Strickland that are like, let me take charge, and that might not perhaps be the best charge to be help growing the sport. So even though I do believe Sean Strickland does sell a lot of pay-per-view points, especially now, I believe Saturday will be a huge event because of what he has to say. It's not in the best like marketing tactic. I know people say that all marketing or all publicity is good publicity, but maybe not this one for the long term. So we need people like Ian Gary, people who could talk that talk and walk that walk, that could talk properly, fight correctly and like crazy, and we will all love the sport again and could go into new heights. But what do you guys think, man? I'm a casual MMA fan. This is my first video, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, man.